Thanks everyone for joining us for another WKS podcast. This time I'm with a guy called Smogg, who is an independent solo artist, shall we say.
Yeah.
How's things? All right?
Things are going all right, my friend. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah. I'm pretty good. Do you want to start off by telling us then sort of, how you got into music in the first place?
Well, I've actually been into music ever since I discovered music. I was 11 years old. My first album was, I think it was a Queen Greatest Hits album. And then from that point on, I just discovered more and more music. I went into a more heavy direction, though, as in like metal, So I first discovered Motorhead when I was 11 years old, shortly after Queen. Motorhead changed my life. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before at that time. And then my curiosity grew more and more and more. And then I discovered Metallica straight after that. Then I fell upon Pantera and Fear Factory, all the contemporary 90s bands that were of that time. And then it just grew and grew ever more. And I wanted to be in a band, so to speak. But it just so happens, in my lived experience, I happened to just find a bunch of people who just didn't want to make that much effort. I would join a band and then it would fall apart. I would join a band and then it would fall apart again and again and again, until eventually I just kind of gave it up for a long time. Then I tried to form a band again about 3 years ago, and the same thing kept happening. It was either a case of me being the only one dedicated enough to actually write any music for the band, and then the other guys not really being that interested, or just lack of dedication from everyone else. I've always been very, very dogmatic, and I don't want to use the word militant, but on that same level when it comes to getting things done. So eventually, at this point, I was nearly 40 years old. I then thought to myself, if I'm not going to make it happen now, then it's never going to happen. So I decided to go solo, and that was a very daunting prospect because I'm not a drummer. I can play bass and I can play guitar and I can sing adequately, but I can't really sing. So I decided to use the like a growling method. And it was like, to begin with, it was like walking into a minefield blindfolded, because I had no idea how to make music on a computer. So it's very touch and go for a long time. I eventually got the skills needed and the know-how, and I got my methodology down. And now we are in 2021, and I have 6 releases to my name, all published on major streaming platforms. Excuse me. I have 3 albums, and I have 3 EPs and a single, which is a Tom Jones cover of What's New Pussycat, but metal. I know that sounds quite bizarre, but it's something I had my eye on doing for a long time. And I'm finally getting some traction. I'm finally being, for want of a better phrase, noticed, if you will. And I can't complain, really. Things are going all right.
Good. That's brilliant. That's really good.
Yeah.
So how did the sort of lockdown thing, how did it affect you musically then?
It affected me positively, believe it or not. I mean, I know a lot of people are really struggling with human interaction and wanting to get out on the road again and do gigs again. And I completely understand that, and I really sympathize to a great degree. But when the lockdowns happened, I had so much free time. And I thought, well, I'm going to use this free time. I'm going to use it to make all this music. And I did. And I was kicking out stuff like basically once every 2 months. I was just going for it, and in a kind of miracle-esque way, the music just kept on coming to me constantly. I was just conjuring ideas, idea after idea after idea, and I had the time to implement each one, and I had the time to get it done, and I did. And the ideas are still coming right now. I mean, I only just released my latest album a month ago, and I've already written the 4th album in my head, and I've got some songs laid down, on my computer. It just never ever seems to stop, and I'm happy about that. I'm really happy about that, because and I've not suffered any writer's block or anything like that.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you was, you know, how do you deal with it? Because I mean, most people get it, but obviously you've just got something switched on there and it's pouring in.
Yeah, I can't explain it. I mean, I am not on the other thing I can compare it to is a chap called Devin Townsend, who is a Canadian musician. I'm not sure if you're aware of his work, but he explains it like his mind is a car and he is the exhaust. He just constantly flows this music out like he hasn't even got a choice. It's almost as if he's a conduit for something else. Now I would compare myself to that, but I am not comparing myself to Devin Townsend because he is a musical god. Like I say, if you don't know who he is, I sincerely recommend you check him out. He's got like 31 albums out to his name, and every single one of them is just beautiful.
Wow. Okay.
But that's the other way I would compare myself to him in regards to the amount of content I seem to be pushing out constantly. I mean, I've even got a punk album that's completely written. It's good to go. But it just so happens that my vocal style does not suit the music. I'm looking for a vocalist. Right. I do have a vocalist ready to go with me. But obviously, because of the lockdowns, it's not easy for him to come to my place to lay his voice down. But he's definitely lined up to do that. I've also got, this is going to sound a bit crazy, I've got a Sonic the Hedgehog themed sci-fi metal album ready to go as well, which is just, I mean, I know how I sound. I know how I come across to other people when I explain to them the projects that I've got lined up. And I do expect an eyebrow-raised comical reaction when I tell them what's going on or what I've got planned. Yeah. But it comes from a place of sincerity and honesty. Like, excuse me, you may not consider Sonic the Hedgehog to be a viable thing to write music about, but when you hear the music, it's not done comically. It's not done half-assed. It's done with as much passion as you would put into any other musical project.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So what's your actual process then? So you get an idea and how, just take me through how you then end up, you know, putting it online or wherever you sell it.
Okay, well, when I get an idea, it can literally come from anywhere. Like, let me think of an example. I did a song called Damned in Exile, which is from my EP Entertaining Evil Part 1. And there was a bird, just again, this is going to sound absolutely mad, but it's true. I heard a bird chirping in a tree, and for some reason it stuck to my brain like glue. The thing it was chirping, I was humming to myself later on, and I smiled to myself, and I realized just how crazy it would sound. But I thought, I'm gonna record myself humming to this thing I heard a bird say in the tree, and I'm gonna try to translate that into a guitar riff when I get home. And I did. and that became that song.
Wow.
And that's the most extreme weird example I can give you of where that song came about. And that's not how it usually happens, you know? Like, let me think. Yeah, I do kind of get anxious a lot sometimes. So when I do, I tap my feet very rapidly. And sometimes I'll think of a guitar riff that might go along to how my feet are tapping. And I'll even record that on my phone, the sound of my feet going clackety, clackety, clack on the floor, especially if I'm on a hard floor, like, I don't know, like I'm in Asda or something like that, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the most weird, oddball examples I can give you of where inspiration comes from. But to be brutally honest, it comes from inspiration. Most of the songs that I write are inspired from any other means of media that you might listen to inadvertently or anything you might be exposed to. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some kind of music wizard who will just pull music out of thin air by nature or whatever. The way I write music, it could be compared to how anyone else probably would write music. I might even have a dream about something and write about that dream and be inspired what I dreamt whilst I was asleep. But then wherever the idea comes from, once it's there, once the concept is imagined in my brain, excuse me, I will then try to turn it into a song in the best way I possibly can. And it usually starts with me sitting in front of my computer with a guitar around me, headphones on, ready to go. And I'll just play around for a little while. Sometimes I won't come up with anything at all. Sometimes I'll just be kind of stuck for a little while, but then I'll come back to whatever idea I had in the first place, and then with an actual concept of what I want to do, and then I'll just translate it through the guitar, and like that. But the writing process actually would start with the guitar. What used to be really difficult was planning the drums around it, because I'm not a drummer at all. I have to use a VST program for my computer, which I would then use on my digital audio workstation. Sometimes planning the drums can be a very frustrating process because, especially for someone like me, because I kind of infuriate myself with how meticulous I choose to be when I'm writing music, especially when it comes to drum loops, drum patterns.
Fair play. Fair play. Yeah. So, say that, what would you say has been sort of like the best bit of advice that you've been given?
That's difficult to answer. I have not really been given any advice whatsoever.
Okay.
I literally have self-taught myself everything in regards to making music. I even self-taught myself the guitar. And my guitar style, my guitar style is very, very unconventional. The only bit of advice, really, I would say I ever got from anyone was the aforementioned Devin Townsend fella, and he didn't give it to me face to face, or anything. He was just basically openly giving advice whilst playing the show, right? He says something like, so how many people are in the band? And a few dozen hands went up. And he just simply said, just keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. It doesn't matter if there are 100 bands that sound exactly like you. Just do your best, and take the shot and just keep going, and just keep doing what you're doing. If you love and especially if you love what you're doing, just keep going.
Brilliant.
And he only spent like 15 seconds saying that on a stage, but that was plenty enough for me. I mean, I admire the guy that much, so for him to say that, and he says it in whenever he does impart advice like that, he does it with such benevolence and such, I suppose, kindness is the only other word I can think of. I realize how much I've bigged up this guy, but you'll understand it if you ever give him a shot, if you ever give him a try.
Right, I will do, actually. So would that be the same advice if you could go back to when you were, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, would that be the same advice you give yourself, or would it be something different?
Oh, that is a very good question. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Oh, fair play. Fair play, yeah. So what's next then for you then? What are your plans?
My plans are to just simply keep making more music. Once the terrible lockdown's been lifted, I would hope to try again to form a band.
Right.
and I don't necessarily mean with Smogg in particular, because Smogg isn't to everyone's taste, and I wouldn't want to say to someone, if you're going to join the band with me, it has to be Smogg. I wouldn't do that to anyone. I would want it to be a democracy.
Yeah.
So yeah, once, as I just said, once these lockdowns have been lifted, I would hopefully get enough people who appreciate my music style to want to collaborate with me and to want to form some kind of band. I do actually have one fellow who's actually quite interested, and his interest comes from him listening to my music and saying, wow, that's pretty good. Yes, of course, I'd like to make some music with you. And hopefully it'll snowball from there. I hope, and at the risk of sounding somewhat narcissistic, I would hope that what little reputation I have regarding the music I make would be enough to hopefully garner some interest from like-minded individuals and take it from there. Yeah.
Superb. Right, final question for you, mate.
Yeah.
I ask everybody this one, and it's, is there anybody you'd like to thank for you being here musically now?
Yes, actually, yes, I would. Only 2 people, really. Actually, no, make that 3. A lovely lady who runs Northwich Radio called Nikki Clifford. She was the one who gave me my first radio interview, and it went really, really well. And she was really, really nice to me, and very, very warm, welcoming. And she really helped a lot of people be exposed to Smogg, because after that interview, I did have, I was about to say I had quite a number of people contact me, but it wasn't like it was hundreds. It was just... It was double digits, but that was a lot more activity than I had previous to that. So she really, really helped. And there's also 2 other people, James and Jane Bennett. They're I'm pretty sure they're married, hence the surnames. They run the 0161 Manchester Metal Underground scene movement. I beg your pardon. And they are 2 of the most brilliant, hard-working individuals who I have ever met, who are that passionate about music, and metal music in particular. They blow my mind. They are so... They're involved with everything, almost everything in regards to the Manchester metal scene. Whenever anything's going on, they are there. But they're there to help each band be exposed to the music that each band is making. And they are so inspirational to me. They really are. They were actually the ones who hooked me up with the aforementioned Nikki Clifford regarding Northwich Radio. But they wouldn't have done that if they didn't believe in the music they were listening to. So I impacted them in some way, and they obviously impacted me in a very, very positive way. So those 3 people mainly, and obviously all my friends and family, but there's too many people to mention. But in regards to my music development and Smogg's exposure, it's got to be those 3 people specifically. And believe you me, I am ever grateful for everything they've ever done for me, for all the things they've done for me.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Look, brilliant interview. Loved it. Loved chatting to you. And
thank you very much, mate.
Good luck with everything. I hope you get your band and you can get out there and go for it.
I would love to. Just give me the opportunity,
Yeah. Good luck anyway. All right.
Thank you very much, mate. Really
no
appreciate
problem.
your time.
Speak to you soon. Cheers.
See you later.